This has been in the pipeline now. 2017 is when things started to get very interesting as far as greyhound racing is concerned. There have been 3 reviews held, governmental reviews, since 2017. The industry's been put on notice, even though they are claiming currently they didn't see this coming. And to be fair, nobody did. But you'd think in their position they would have an idea that after 3 reviews that were all reasonably damning, something was in the air and it wasn't going to last.
And what has the greyhound racing industry had to say?
Well, they think they've been absolutely blindsided. They are predictably devastated. There is only 7 tracks in New Zealand organisations, so it's not huge. The income generated, the amount of money, $150 million, so we're not talking a huge amount of money. The big thing here with the greyhound breeders, who I've talked to quite a few of, is that they have now got dogs that they need to rehome. They've got about 20 months to rehome their dogs. Last year they managed to rehome 670 odd, but there are still just shy of 3,000 animals that need to be rehomed. And just aside that, there's been legislation also quickly run through the House that means people cannot put their own dogs down. It's got to go through a vet. What they're afraid of is that there'll be mass extermination, for want of a better phrase, of the animals that no longer serve purpose. So the friends of the greyhounds, the trainers, the owners, they are devastated. I had guests on that have been nearly in tears with what they have to deal with. This has been their life, dealing with the hounds. And yeah, it's quite upsetting. They're pets, they're family members, if you will.
And has the issue of animal welfare been the, I suppose, the deal breaker here for the industry?
Yeah, Winston Peters, who came on board this, he's part of the coalition, one of the 3 members of the coalition, sometimes Deputy Prime Minister. He believes even though there have been changes made and the death toll has plateaued somewhat, it's still untenable, and they believe to fall into line with the rest of the world. It's remember, Garish, that there are only a handful of countries that still legally have greyhound racing. Australia is one of them. In the UK, in Ireland, they still engage. The USA still have it, but there are only 2 tracks where they use it. Mexico and Vietnam, it is still legal, but there are no facilities to actually race the dogs, so they're not there. So it's very thin on the ground as far as ratified and legalised greyhound racing right across the globe. And I believe New Zealand want to fall into line with that, believing that, look, it's been 150 years this industry has been running approximately in New Zealand. And just because it's been around for 150 years, as I like to say, tradition is the illusion of permanence. It doesn't mean to say it has to carry on. So, yeah, a few people affected by this, but in general, the SPCA and a number of animal organisations have said this is about time. This is cruel to the dogs. We need to move it on.
Yes, on that note, how popular has greyhound racing been in New Zealand in recent years?
I wouldn't say popular. There's only a small amount of clubs and a small amount of tracks where it's engaged. And as I said, the industry is $150 million, which is not big when you look at the bloodstock industry, which is near on $2 billion per annum. So people go to the dogs, but it's not what you'd say the most popular pastime. It more is a throwback to the old days, to the rugby, racing and beer, when that was one of the few things people could bet on or go and actually see. And of course, in this day and age and modern sport globally, there are so many more ways to gamble and so many more sports that people can directly engage in. So it's definitely falling by the wayside. It's quite niche, if you will.
And finally, D'arcy, could this ban have flow-on effects on countries like Australia, where, as you mentioned, greyhound racing still exists, but the efforts here have to ban racing have failed?
Well, I expect it's another domino, isn't it? And in time, the other governments will fall into global line. Maybe that's not the right phrase, but it is the thin end of a wedge. And I expect increasingly, as people rally against the nature of greyhound racing, the few remaining countries that exist that still have it as a legal part of their gambling industry, it will disappear. What interests me here, Garris, is that the hounds that had to be rehomed, 2,900 approximately, because there is an industry in Australia and it is hard to rehome these animals. I wonder how many of these animals will find a new home over the ditch. That seems to be a likely outcome of this story.
Yeah, a tough transition in many ways. D'arcy Waldegrave, really grateful to get your insights into this. Thanks very much.
And Gareth, thanks very much for your time.